Hi, I'm Dana, and I thought it was about time we do another fun video. So we're back to the info dump. I haven't done one of these and it feels like a really long time. I feel like it's been forever since I did an info dump. Otis is at the door. So there's been a couple of times that I've kind of wanted to do videos about like specific shows, but I just don't feel like I've got enough like opinion and thought about the show to do a whole video about it, you know? So I finally came up with the idea of doing a little info dump on just British comedy that I enjoy in general. And I'm excited to talk about this one. I love an info dump. I love just getting to talk shit about the stuff I like. So let's just get straight into it. So this is where the autism really comes in, because I mostly watch things if they've got an actor that I like in them. I don't often just watch things because it sounds good. It's because I've become obsessed with an actor, so I want to watch everything they've ever done. So I've managed to connect this because like it's literally been as I've watched stuff and gone, oh wait, who's that? First off, we've got things with Rick Mail in. Fucking love Rick Mail. I think I made an entire video about Drop Dead Fred. If I haven't, I'm gonna check now that I've mentioned it to myself when I'm editing. I'm gonna check, and if I haven't, you're getting a whole video about Drop Dead Fred. But we're not talking about that right now because it's American. So we're starting with The Young Ones. I immediately like loved The Young Ones. It was the second thing I watched after I saw Drop Dead Fred. This might end up just becoming a bit of like a TV British comedy recommendation. Don't eat the elastic on my notebook. Recommendation video. So be it. Young Ones is for uni students that like don't actually ever go to uni, and Mike is definitely too old to go to uni, and I feel like Neil probably is as well, to be honest with you. But it's these four lads that live in student accommodation, well technically five but mostly four, and just madcap shit goes on. It's just really weird, it's a bit bizarre and it's a bit surreal, and the characters are kind of like, they're kind of all dicks, but they become really lovable and it's just really funny. You really enjoy it, and they have bands on. They had like Motorhead and like fucking Madness and like really good bands. Highly recommend it. There's a lot of bits that I just spat again, I keep doing that. I forgot where I was, so we're moving on to Bottom, which is one that I've got a little bit more to say about because it's actually one of my fucking favourite shows like ever. It's such a comfort show. I've watched it through so many times. Oh, you can see my big VHS box set of Bottom right there. So Bottom was the first thing that I watched after Drop Dead Fred, and I just immediately fell in love with it. It's just such a great show. It's Richie and Eddie are these two horrible, gross, disgusting men that live in a flat in Hammersmith, and they just, again, get, like, most comedy is just that they get into shenanigans, isn't it? That's what makes it funny. But they're just the most like disgusting men. Like they're so gross. Like there's bits where they drink oil, and there's just all these little like mad side characters, and it's just one of those shows that like it shouldn't bring me as much comfort and joy and just like oh as it does, but like it's just so quotable as well. I think that's what it is. Like it really plays into the echolalia, and especially because Rick Mail makes so many just noises, like just sounds, and I'm not gonna do it because I don't want to publicly try to be Rick Mail. I'm just going to embarrass myself. It's not going to be nearly as funny or as good, but he just makes so many great sounds that like yeah, like I'm sure every autistic person has to repeat it, you know, like we all do that. And the final show of his I want to talk about is Blackadder, because I didn't get super into Blackadder because the first season sucks and isn't funny, but the episodes specifically with Rick, specifically with fucking Captain Flashheart, I should know that this is an info dump. I am a, sorry excuse for an autistic, with a special interest, but like fuck it. But every moment that Rick Mail is on screen, and to be fair, Aid Edmondson, every moment that he's on screen in Blackadder is just hilarious. Like he's just perfect as that character. And there's this whole, do I want to admit this? Rick Mail's characters are always really gross, and yet for some reason I find them all kind of hot anyway. But Lord Flashheart especially is like supposed to be kind of sexy, and he definitely is. I wish I hadn't admitted that. I'm not going to edit it out now because I'm not a fucking pussy. I've done it, I've put it down there, we're going for it. But I kind of wish I hadn't. So, because like I said, everything has to be connected, the next thing I watched was Man Down, which obviously has Rick in it. but you'll see what happened afterwards after I've spoken about it for a hot minute. Because it's also got Greg Davies and Machine Connerty, and Rick Mail is Greg Davies' dad. Greg Davies is a teacher in a school that like hates his life and his job because he's not really doing very well at anything. And it's another one of those shows where like it's kind of sad sometimes, honestly, because I feel like that sometimes. I'm just like, what am I doing with my life and what's the point of it all? But then you get it like interspersed with some really good comedy, and then it kind of feels like perhaps my life's just a little comedy play, perhaps like it's all tragedy and comedy and it all like comes and goes. And that's why I like comedy. It just makes me feel like maybe my life's one, it's actually all okay because bad things have to happen for the other things to be funny. So anyway, moving on, Greg Davies then became my thing, and I was like, oh my god, I want to watch everything Greg Davies has ever done. So then I watched Cuckoo. I fucking hate it when they just replace actors and characters and shit halfway through a show. You've given me these characters, you've built up so I like actually care about them. You can't just change them or get rid of them being human. Fucking being human broke my little heart. And as such, I thought that Cuckoo, when Andy Samberg left, I was like, well, this is gonna go to shit, isn't it? It doesn't. Not for another like 3 seasons anyway. Okay, Taylor Lautner like fucking nails it. It remains such a funny show. I haven't explained the premise at all. This like middle class girl from Birmingham goes on a gap year and marries this dude Cuckoo, who's just like this weirdo in like, I want to say Thailand. It's the typical like, I'm on a gap year and oh my god, I've met this guy and he's like so spiritual and he like meditates and he's like really fucking weird in like the funniest way imaginable. And then she takes him home to her family who are like the most normal people, and it's just real funny. It's real good, it's real funny. But then apparently Andy Samberg had like better things to do or something, so they got Taylor Lautner instead, which like is a really weird juxtaposition to this like really English family. It sounds like it shouldn't work, but that's what makes it kind of really, really work, and I really love it, and it's really great. And the way that they wove in how his character comes in after like Cuckoo leaves, it's chef's kiss. I have written down Taskmaster, but I don't feel like there's much to like dump with, because it's Taskmaster. The people get given tasks, and Greg Davies is the taskmaster that presides over them all, and they have to do the task to his liking. It's one of those shows that you just sit and you watch it and it's a great show and everything's really funny, but it's just a reality quiz panel show type thing really, and I don't know what more to say about it. It's really great, but there's not much to say. Sorry. And I've put down In-Betweeners finally, mostly honestly because it tied me into my next person and not because I actually, that's a lie. Like I don't want to, but I really do. Like I went and looked at them all when they were at Comic-Con, apart from Neil, who apparently doesn't want to be known for the In-Betweeners anymore. It's a lie. I remember you from Doctor Who now anyway. It's more impressive you in that, it's fine. But I went and like nosed at them and was like, oh my god, there's the lads from the In-Betweeners, that's so cool. And it's one of those shows where like, I don't think I'm ever gonna rewatch it again, but I will rewatch the movies on occasion. And at a time in my life, it really did crack me up. Like when Will eats the weed and then like gets up on stage and asks for his mum, that will always stick with me. That was the height of comedy to me as a 16-year-old. That was so fucking funny back in the day. And it's just sort of got an honorary mention because Taika Waititi directed, I want to say, the pilot, which brings us to Matt Bay. That's really how I've tied this together, is that we're talking about what we do in the shadows and the IT crowd next. So what we do in the shadows, I've talked about this before. I can't stop talking about this show. I fucking love What We Do in the Shadows. Group of vampires in Staten Island. They've got a familiar Guillermo. They're all sort of dicks, honestly. They're all sort of just really rude and think that they're better than everyone because they're vampires and they're really old and they're just sort of idiots, and they can and do and would fall apart without Guillermo, who is a sweet, sweet baby child that I would protect with my life. I would die for Guillermo. He is everything to me. I don't relate at all to like the badass vampire slaying side. I relate so hard to the picking up after you because I care for some reason side. The just people pleasing and doing whatever you need because I care even though I shouldn't side. Oh, Guillermo touches my heart. And I mean, you can't talk about What We Do in the Shadows without talking about fucking Matt Berry, because Laszlo is just iconic, incredible. I want some gay, iconic line. Bat, iconic. Everything he says, New York City, it's all fucking perfect. But what kind of autistic person would I be if I didn't talk about Colin Robinson? Because I've been offended by Colin Robinson before. The whole phase where he was like a YouTuber that was playing Roblox and like being into musical theatre, and everyone was like, oh my god, he's just boring in a whole new way, and I was like, yo, these are like 2 of my 3 personality traits, like, can we not? But I also fucking love Colin. He is really relatable. I wish he wasn't, but he really is. I totally understand him. If I had less self-restraint, I would be way closer to being Colin Robinson than I currently am. Only rather than info dumping about whatever the fuck Colin Robinson info dumps about, it'd be Doctor Who and Lord of the Rings. Now, I debated putting the IT crowd in here because of the whole thing with the writer. I want to say his name's Graham Linehan. Whoever the fuck wrote the IT crowd turned out to me really transphobic and a massive twat in many a way from what I can tell. So I did feel like really uncomfortable about watching it for a little while. However, before I felt uncomfortable about watching it, I fucking loved it. It's just one of those shows that again brings me so much comfort because it's just this little ragtag bunch of idiots that don't really know what they're doing, but they're trying their best together and for each other and just at life. And it doesn't always go right, but when it doesn't go right, that just makes it funny, doesn't it? I'm really scared that I'm Jen. I'm really scared that I'm a Jen just in my day-to-day life. However, again, talking about the IT crowd, can't not mention Richmond, who is, again, the autistic character of it. They all have an autistic character that lives in the basement. Sitcoms, British shows, like, I think these are these all sitcoms? I think they mostly count as sitcoms. You've got to have the fucker that lives in the basement, and that's Richmond, played by Noel Fielding. Goth-ass motherfucker that just, like, lives in the, like, boiler room, and he's just a weird, awkward little fuck. And honestly, my favourite moment in all of comedy, like all of it, every film, TV show, YouTube video, like TikTok, every piece of comedy I've ever seen, nothing has ever or will ever be as funny as that bit when Richmond walks into the kitchen and Jen follows him and then she's like, oh, he's not here, and she walks out and then the camera pans up and he's like in the corner like a spider just up on the wall for no reason. I've never ever laughed as hard. Like, it gets me, thinking about it really tickles me. Like, it's just perfect timing, perfect amount of like just surrealism. It's just flawless. Like the confusion on Jen's face, the like shock on Richmond's, like it's just beautiful scene, perfect scene. And that takes us to Noel Fielding, because Mighty Boosh has been one of my like biggest special interests. I really adore the Mighty Boosh. How do you explain the Mighty Boosh?
Come with us now on a journey through time and space.
So you've got, oh, my cat's falling. You've got Howard. So you've got Howard Moon and Vince Noir in the Zooniverse to start out with. Or is it for the whole thing? I'm often not sober while watching the Mighty Boosh. Look, it's not a show that you watch sober or drunk, okay? That's what I'm saying. So I might not have the best memory for every fucking moment of it, but it's just this really surreal, very out there, really odd show. Personally, my favourite episode's the Milky Joe episode, because there's the bit right near the start when Howard's doing his little song and he's like, I can't remember the exact line, but there's a bit where he like whispers into the mirror and the mirror's just like, Howard. And then like he murders a coconut. Like the whole thing is just, honestly, I think it might be that Noel Fielding had like some sort of acid trip or DMT trip, or I mean, I doubt he was on ayahuasca in like 2008. I think it's older than that. There was a radio show of it as well that's actually, I thought it was fairly decent. A lot of people sort of shit on it. But anyway, it is just Noel Fielding's brain diarrheaing psychedelic bullshit, I suppose. And there is also, I do need to disclose, there's a lot of blackface. There's so much fucking, like, the whole character of Rudy's really dodgy and not actually funny. And Spider Dijon is, like, not an okay character. Like, that's the thing with, like, older comedies, that you just do need to be, like, this bit's dodgy and not funny. They're not doing it now, and as far as I'm aware, they have not been pricks about it or been like, oh, it was funny at the time. You can't just erase all media that's a bit dodge. Like, if it's too dodgy, obviously we can just fuck it off, but like, I'm sorry, okay? And finally on Noel Fielding, luxury comedy. For me, I felt like luxury comedy was some sort of weird continuation of Mighty Boosh, because I know that he becomes like he's Noel instead of Vince, and he's in Painted Hawaii instead of the Zooniverse, and Howard's not there, and Bolly's not there, and Naboo isn't. No one's there apart from, I mean, literally not even Vince, because he's Noel. It's literally not related at all to the Mighty Boosh, but it's still Noel Fielding, so I've decided in my mind that it is for some reason. I just really enjoy it. They live in Painted Hawaii, all sorts of mad stuff goes down. There's like cool cucumbers, and there's Andy Warhol, and there's an anteater human thing, and there's bits where like the mountains tell each other off, and there's Richard Ayoade's a stingray. It's a really good show, and I like it a lot. And most of these are also free on all 4 other BBC iPlayer thing if you're in the UK, so that's nice. And finally, putting my notes down now, getting in close and personal for some reason. I feel like I look short. Finally, honorary mention is Benidorm, because that's what I really wanted to make a video about. That's why I've sort of done a speed run through the others, because I really want to talk about Benidorm, because I think it's just sort of like the perfect British comedy show. I don't, like, for me at least, for like the people I was around growing up and stuff, perfect. I've never watched another show that like captures like northern British people at their best, like, by which I mean at their worst, but at their best. You if you're English, I think you get what I mean. It's just very like, that's us, and it's all of us. It's airs and graces, and the gross parts, and the gritty parts, and the shitty parts. It's just such like an accurate representation of British tourists, and yet it's done in a way that is cripplingly hilarious. And I think a good part of the reason I find it so funny is because like so many of them are people that I know near enough, you know, like every character near enough I can be like, oh, that reminds me of this person when I was a kid, and this reminds me of this person my ex now, and blah 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 blah. It's just so on the nose. Right down to like bits with the Garveys when they send the kids to get the pints when they're on holiday and stuff. Like my parents would be sending me to buy all sorts when we used to go camping, and they just let you do it because they know if you're your parents. Like it's really nostalgic for me, even though my family couldn't afford to go to Benidorm. Like, it's considered the cheap holiday. We couldn't afford that shit, okay? So I also do kind of really want to go to Benidorm and stay at the Solana and go to the club, like go to Neptune's and everything, because I'm not into it. Like, okay, I saw a panto a couple of years back because it had Tony Maudsley, the guy that plays Kenneth, and it's one of my favourite things that ever happened, because I was with my ex at the time and he went to see it with me, and he was a prick about it. He was really, really shitty with me about like, it's not going to be like Benidorm, you know, they're not going to like mention the show, he's just an actor, he's not going to like, it's not all about Benidorm, you know, like he's a proper fucking little twat about it. And then we get there and we're watching the show and Tony Maudsley comes out and his name's Cutlass Kenneth, and they're like, why's your name Cutlass Kenneth? And he's like, because I cut Loss's hair. Because he's a hairdresser just like he was in Benidorm, where he was also called Kenneth. And they dropped so many jokes about him being like the same character and him being the Kenneth from Benidorm. And my ex was like, he didn't say anything about it, but I could like just his face and his body language and shit, he was fuming. It made him so angry and it made me so happy. And I think that might play into part of why I love Benidorm so much. It's just Tony Maudsley, he's just fabulous. But also Madge and the Oracle. I fucking love Johnny Vegas. I really wish I didn't. I had a conversation with my housemate the other day about like loving the UK and loving like British culture, what a little of it we have. And he very delicately put it as the difference between patriotism and nationalism. So I think I would say that I'm a patriot. Like, I'm quite patriotic. I really like, I don't love it in the way of like, I think it's a good thing or I like it. Like, I don't think that British people on the whole are very good. I don't think like, you know, the country on the whole, like what we've done, what we continue to do, like on the whole, like we are shit, don't get me wrong. But there's just also like a part of me that really loves like, you've always gonna love where you're from. You're not. Lots of people don't. Personally, I think that I don't know why I'm getting this deep on a video about fucking Benidorm. I hope you understood what I meant there, because I assume that like 6 people have actually watched this far in. I'd love it if you like left me any show recommendations that you've got down below. I have watched a lot more than this, so it might be something I've seen before, but I'd love you to let me know what you enjoy anyway, whether it's a recommendation or just tell me you like it. So yeah, I remembered. So down below I'll have links to our Ko-fi and Patreon, and you can also become a YouTube channel member and all of that stuff. There's links to like my Instagram, my TikTok, my general social media, and places that you can help to support me as a content creator. But for now, whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.